Much. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Building Resilience, the Power of Food for Mental Wellness. I am Trisha Silverman. I'm a registered dietitian, a fitness instructor, and a life and wellness coach. Welcome on behalf of Point 32 Health and Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare. So let's go ahead and talk about for good mental health. We need a balanced diet. It's really the baseline for overall health, but really important for your mental health. Most of your food, at least 85%, you may have heard the 80-20 rule. That's old news. It's really 85-15. 85% of what we should eat should come from fruits, vegetables, whole grains or healthy carbs like potatoes, corn or peas, protein-rich foods, and healthy fats and oils like extra virgin olive oil, avocados, nuts, and seeds. Now, you see a healthy plate there. I call it the nutritious plate, and that's a plate that I put together after looking at ways of eating across the world that lead to living long, healthy lives, such as the Okinawan pyramid and the Mediterranean pyramid and the diabetes plate and the Canadian plate and the USDA plate and the Harvard School of Public Health plate. When you put all of these ways of healthy eating together, I came up with this. So half your plate vegetables. If you're looking to make one change today that can make a huge difference in your health, more vegetables. And we want a variety and lots of colors. So I have my butterfly behind me, a rainbow butterfly, to remind you to eat a rainbow array of fruits and vegetables, and it can be quite transformative. For vegetables, try to get at least 3 different vegetables a day, at least 3 different fruits a day, more like 4 different vegetables if possible for feeling really good. And different colors, different types. So we want variety. We want protein-rich foods like chicken and fish and beans and turkey, eggs, nuts, and seeds. We want to limit red meat. That's pork, beef, and lamb. And also know that yogurt, such as Greek yogurt, great source of protein. And then I'm going to stop sharing here so I can welcome you into the kitchen, and give me a moment. I'm just going to spotlight myself so you can see a little bit more. Here we go. All right, great. So let's chat about whole grains for a moment. So what makes a whole grain is when 3 pieces of the grain are intact: the bran, the germ, and the endosperm. In the bran and the germ, we have lots of B vitamins, and they're really good for turning your food into energy and for helping us deal with stress. Vitamin E is in the germ area. It's a great antioxidant. It's good for our cognition as we age, also good for healthy skin. Then we have the endosperm, not a lot of nutrients there. And we have fiber also in the bran and the endosperm, in the germ. Now, what companies do, they strip away the bran and the germ, the good parts, and they leave the endosperm, doesn't have a lot of nutrients, and they make things like bagels and white bread and cookies and crackers. We want more whole grains like oatmeal and quinoa. And this is a nice whole grain farro bluebird brand from Amazon. And farro's great grain to be eating. Also, millet is another gluten-free grain. And then brown rice. We'll talk more about brown rice as we move along today. And then for beans, we want to get a variety in, like black beans and kidney beans. We want to look for low sodium. If it's not, you want to rinse and drain your beans at least twice to get rid of the excess sodium. And then other types like cannellini and pinto beans and black-eyed peas. And I just made a great lentil stew with these organic brown lentils. I love that brand. It's Aurora. I got that at Whole Foods. Great brand, but any lentils, super good for you. And then when we think about nuts and seeds, it's great to get a variety in of nuts and seeds and nut butters. So are you doing things like flaxseed and chia seed and hemp seed? And what about for nut butters? This is a great local brand, Teddy's, out of Everett. I like the unsalted one. And then almond butter, really yummy as well. What about sesame tahini? A great way to get in the nutritional powerhouse um, sesame seeds. And that is nice. You can make dressings with sesame tahini. It's really delicious. Another thing you may want to do is get more variety of nuts and seeds in general. So almonds and Brazil nuts and pecans and cashews. And what about these are pumpkin seeds, Eden brand. You can get these on Amazon. They're low in sodium. The way you know that, you see the 4%. So 5% or less means low in sodium. So that might be a nice little snack for you. Now, one little thing I wanted to mention is that if you have questions, feel free to put those in the chat and I'll get to those as we move along. And I see a question. Oh, great. So people actually put in some comments because I asked, what did people have for their last vegetable? And I see that Tawny mentioned cabbage with dinner last night in a coleslaw. So we didn't plan this, Tawny, but look, I have the coleslaw cabbage. This is a great one to buy. This is Fresh Express, and it's great. You can put like Italian dressing over it, or make like a light coleslaw type of dressing. And it's a great way to get cabbage in. And you put that with tomatoes and lettuce. Awesome. And then question came in, is pork still considered a red meat? Yes, pork, beef, and lamb, we want to limit those. Too much red meat is associated with inflammation. Inflammation, not good for our brain. So we're talking about brain power today. And so we do want to keep limiting the pork, beef, and lamb. All right, great. And give me 1 second here. And I'm going to, let me just check, see if there's anything else to mention. Yeah, I do want to note some winter squash is great to have on hand. When you run out of fresh veggies, have some frozen, have some counter vegetables like acorn squash goes great with tomatoes or diced tomatoes, spaghetti squash, and butternut squash. I love to roast butternut squash along with some tomatoes and mushrooms and onions and garlic, really delicious. There's a dish called briam or briami, nice Greek dish where you also add some potatoes into that, some parsley, really delicious. And then you can add some beans to make it a real well-rounded dish where you're getting your protein and your vegetables in, and you're getting some healthy starchy carb in the potatoes. All right, let me share again and go back to the balanced plate. And I also want to mention for your healthy fats, bottom left, avocados, extra virgin olive oil, organic or expella pressed canola oil. And the variety is key of the nuts and seeds, for example. And again, within each food group, getting a variety. Top right, we want to stay well hydrated. I recommend 9 cups of water a day for women, 13 cups a day for men. Let's talk about reducing anxiety. And my number one tip we're going to get to in a few moments. You want to eat a balanced diet. That's what we spoke about, that plate. So eat all the food groups, get a variety, stay hydrated. Eat magnesium-rich foods, your leafy greens like spinach and Swiss chard, beans, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. Decrease sugar and refined foods. Eat regular meals and snacks so we get a regular dose of energy. And then my number one tip is meditation. I have found, because I have some anxiety, it works wonders to reduce anxiety. My favorite app is Insight Timer, INSIGHT Timer. Also Calm, Headspace, whatever app you have. If you don't like the concept of meditation, just think about it as deep breathing. Make your exhales longer than your inhales, and that can make you feel really, really good. Okay. Other ways we can reduce anxiety: eat probiotic foods like pickles, sauerkraut, kefir. We'll talk about more in a little bit. Eat asparagus, foods rich in the B vitamins. Remember the whole grains we spoke about have B vitamins. Also avocados and almonds. And I'm going to break down the B vitamins in just a little bit. So you'll see all the different sources. And then eat antioxidant rich foods such as beans, fruit, berries, nuts, vegetables, and spices such as turmeric and ginger. Now, if you're looking to increase focus, we want to do a few different things. One, we want to get more green veggies and leafy greens, which have lutein, vitamin K, folate, and beta carotene. And these may help to reduce cognitive decline. And some of these also really good for your eyes. Folate is also um, known that it may help. A deficiency is associated with depression. So having enough may help to prevent against depression. Increase fatty fish such as salmon, herring, sardines, and anchovies. They have omega-3 fats. Consuming omega-3 fats is linked with lower levels of the beta amyloid plaque that's present in Alzheimer's. We want to increase berries, which contain flavonoids that may enhance memory. And we want to enjoy walnuts, strawberries, blueberries, spinach, and apples, which may improve memory. So, lots of things that we can do for enhancing our brain health. Oh, skipped ahead. Let me get back. And here we go. All right. So in Iran, there was interesting research that found a link between gut health and emotional resilience. And oh, I'm sorry, it's bumping around. There we go. Serotonin is a nerve chemical or a neurotransmitter that's involved in mood and behavior. Years ago, when I first taught food and mood classes, we would teach that it's made in your brain. And what's been found through all the microbiome research is that it's synthesized more in the gut, in your intestinal environment, than in the brain. It's likely strongly influenced by bacteria in the microbiome. The microbiome refers to your intestinal environment of good versus lousy bacteria, and we want good bacteria. I'm going to give you some strategies in a moment. Now, researchers found that stool samples from resilient people, what they found is that these people had a healthy gut barrier and low inflammation. So we want to eat anti-inflammatory foods and we want a healthy gut barrier. What does that mean? Well, in your intestines, you have a mucus layer that protects your intestinal wall. How do we build up that mucus layer? We eat more fiber. That's more plant foods, fruits, veggies, whole grains, beans, nuts, and seeds. We want a plant slant, more plant foods. Now, Psychology Today reported that people with the highest ratings of resilience were less depressed, less anxious, and less prone to judgment, and they had more brain activity in areas associated with with cognition and emotional regulation. So, what can we do? Again, eat foods high in fiber, veggies, fruits, whole grains, beans, nuts, seeds. You're going to keep hearing me saying those throughout our presentation today. They are really key. And the key is in the variety of them. Eat fermented foods. So kefir, which is a yogurt type of drink, fermented yogurt type of drink, and then kimchi, which is fermented cabbage, kombucha, fermented drink, sauerkraut, miso, yogurt, cultured cottage cheese. There's a brand that came out recently called Good Culture brand. They have cultured cottage cheese and even cream cheese. Look for that brand. Also, Daisy brand is another great brand. And they don't fully advertise that their cottage cheese is cultured, but it is, which is really cool. So it's a brand I've been recommending for years, and I didn't know only until recently that their cottage cheese is cultured. And then apple cider vinegar. Limit highly processed foods, artificial ingredients, sugars, and alcohol. For managing stress, we want, surprise, surprise, a healthy, balanced diet. We want mindful eating. We're going to talk about what that is momentarily. We want more physical activity. We're going to get to that. The meditation and deep breathing we spoke about, important for managing your stress. We want a better work-life balance. How do we get that? Well, in your life, are you doing fun things? Are you doing things that make you happy? So let's have more fun. And in the Boston area, we're just really lucky in Massachusetts. We have some really great acts coming into town, like Barry Manilow, for instance, and great comedians. Jay Leno is going to be in the area soon. So if this is your form of fun, do that. A day trip somewhere, traveling. We want more fun in our lives. And then helpful sleep habits. Now, I do a whole session on sleep, a whole seminar. And if I can narrow it down to the 8 great tips, here they are. It's also called sleep hygiene, good sleep habits. One, have a sleep schedule. Go to bed the same time each night. Caffeine is interesting. It may help with some aspects of mental sharpness, but then it also may interfere with sleep, making us feel not so great. So you have to figure out for you whether caffeine is working for you or against you. Now, for me, I found that my insomnia was caused by too much caffeine. So I have eliminated caffeine from my diet, and I've met many other people that have, and many people experience more energy once they give up caffeine. Sleep experts recommend giving up caffeine after 2 p.m., perhaps 12 p.m. It could be even a little bit earlier. You may want to experiment for a couple of weeks going caffeine free, see if you feel better. And then you may want to talk to your doctor about something over the counter in case you get the headaches that set in with caffeine. Limit alcohol, especially 3 hours before bed. If exercise keeps you up, do it in the earlier part of the day. Get some sensible sun in the early part of the day. That can help you to produce serotonin. I'm sorry, melatonin, which is the great sleep hormone. Think about winding down 1 hour before bed. So dim your lights, turn off electronics, and then, surprise, surprise, a balanced and varied diet. Also, number 9 would be stay well hydrated. And actually, your vitamin D status, also important for sleep. We're going to get there at the end. Mindful eating is also important. So, this is slowing things down. It helps you to digest better. It helps us from eating too much. When we eat too much, we can feel overly full, then sluggish, and not so great. So, we want to calmly satisfy cravings with small amounts if we choose indulgent food. We want to think about savoring every bite of food, getting more chews out of each bite, being aware when we're eating, decreasing mindless eating. So that's eating when we're driving or scrolling or reading or watching TV. Put your fork down between bites and don't cut up all of your food at once. Then we can shovel it all in at once and it may be too fast that way. Take sips of your beverage between every few bites. Take time to put your hands down your lap. Take a deep breath. Appreciate the company and the atmosphere and the food. And then take over 20 minutes to consume your food to make that mind body connection. Practice Harahachi Bu. It's what they do in Okinawa, which is an area known for people living long, healthy lives. They eat until they're only 80% full, leaving a little bit of room in their bellies. It's different than in America, we do 100% full a lot. If you think of Thanksgiving, we're 110% full. And we want to get away from that and think about leaving a little bit of room. When we leave a little bit of room in our bellies, we eat enough to feel energized. That's why we eat, to feel the energy. If we go beyond our fullness, then we can feel sluggish. So, something to think about. Now, moving your body can really enhance your mental and physical health. In other countries, when people go for therapy, one of the first lines of defense, against depression is physical fitness, is moving. So think about moving more. It doesn't have to be the 10-minute increments that we recommended in the past. Any movement is good. 5 minutes better than none. Research supports 150 to 420 minutes or more per week. 150 minutes per week. That could be like 5 days, 30 minutes. Great for heart health, for diabetes prevention, and then the upper end of that limit or that recommendation, the 420 minutes or more, is good for weight management. We also want to do strength training twice a week, hitting all the major muscle groups. Adding balance training is a great idea. Yoga is great for strength, balance, and flexibility. And we're going to see it's good for something else that we'll talk about soon that relates to mental health. All right. Also for strength, weightlifting, bands, and body weight exercise. Cortisol. So high levels of stress induce um, cortisol, and too much cortisol is linked with insulin resistance, dyslipidemia. So it throws your cholesterol off, high blood pressure, obesity. You may have heard of cortisol as the belly fat hormone. Also, it can lead to problems with bone mineralization and inhibition of collagen synthesis. So it can affect your skin, also suppressed immune system. Now, to reduce cortisol, what we can do is make sure we're getting enough protein in, because that may help to reduce the secretion of cortisol. Vitamin B6 may be helpful in chickpeas, salmon, chicken, potato, turkey, bananas, and winter squash. B12 in animal foods like salmon, light tuna, turkey, yogurt, oysters, and clams. If you're vegetarian, you may want to get tested for your B12 status. You may need a supplement. Folic acid in dark leafy greens, whole grains, avocado, broccoli, beans, peas, and bananas. And then sprouted brown rice. So Lundberg Farms is a great brand for this. So what they do is they soak, and then under certain levels of humidity, they keep the brown rice so it sprouts, and then it actually becomes healthier. It creates more of that germ area that we talked about earlier, so more vitamin E. Also, barley and beans are helpful for reducing cortisol. And then yoga. Yoga may help to decrease cortisol. So, another little plug or huge plug for yoga. And if you don't have balance or your balance is off, then you may want to think about chair yoga. I have a friend who's turning 103 this year. He does chair yoga and he eats the Mediterranean way, which is basically what we're talking about today: more fruits and veggies, beans, nuts and seeds, whole grains, extra virgin olive oil. Really good for feeling good. And then gamma aminobutyric acid, also known as GABA, may help to reduce the secretion of cortisol. So it's found in fermented milk products, sprouted brown rice, barley, and beans. To increase GABA production, eat whole grains, nuts like walnuts and almonds, sunflower seeds, fish like halibut, also shrimp, cocoa, fruit like citrus, berries, and tomato, and vegetables such as spinach, broccoli, and potatoes. All right, some other factors that can help to boost your mood and protect your brain and lower depression: your macros, carbs, protein, and fat. Protein breaks down into amino acids, and they help to produce nerve chemicals called neurotransmitters that are important for mood. Two of them, tyrosine and tryptophan, are important. So, tyrosine may help with alertness, memory, and mental performance. So, besides protein in general, pumpkin seeds, bananas, sesame seeds, and avocado. And then sources of tryptophan, protein in general, and tryptophan turns into serotonin. Now, some fat is essential. So we need to get our omega-3 fats in, and other anti-inflammatory fats are good to protect your brain, such as extra virgin olive oil and avocados and nuts and seeds. Omega-3 fats, you get them in fatty fish like salmon, herring, Atlantic, and Atka mackerel, but not king. And aim for 8 ounces over the course of the week. The reason I don't recommend king mackerel, and also I don't recommend big eye tuna, marlin, orange roughy, shark, swordfish, and tilefish, because they're high in mercury, and mercury is a neurotoxin. Now, know that countries eating more fish experience less depression. And if you don't like fish, you want to get the vegetarian sources of omega-3 fat like walnuts and seeds such as flax, hemp, chia, and pumpkin, soy foods as well, and expeller pressed canola oil. Now, carbs are also important for helping with mood. 130 grams is the minimum amount per day that's considered a baseline amount to provide your brain with adequate glucose. Carbs also help to produce serotonin, the feel-good chemical. Dr. Judith Wertman did research out of MIT on serotonin and found that foods providing 25 to 35 grams of carbs can help to calm your mind. They also help with sleep. Now, if you have diabetes or pre-diabetes, you may not want to try this strategy, but because this strategy is the carbs alone, they help to elicit this boost in serotonin. I put some examples below, and I'm going to forward the handout to your to Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, so you can get a copy of the handout. And an example might be 3/4 cup of cashew heart-to-heart cereal, or a whole wheat English muffin with a tablespoon of Kimes apple butter. Now, a couple more vitamins. I'm going to talk about the B vitamins and then vitamin D, and then we'll be wrapping up. So, having sufficient B vitamins may play a role in lowering the prevalence of depression, anxiety, and stress. B vitamins also turn your food into energy and support a healthy nervous system, among other functions. So, here are some sources of the 8B vitamins. So, thiamine B1, peas, bananas, oranges, nuts, and whole grains. Riboflavin or B2, milk, eggs, mushrooms, and yogurt. Niacin, B3, fish, whole wheat, and eggs. Pantothenic acid, chicken, eggs, mushroom, and avocado. So you hear me repeating certain foods. So get your mushrooms in, get some avocado in. Bananas, super healthy. Vitamin B6, also known as pyridoxine, in chicken, turkey, fish, peanuts, soy, whole wheat, oats, bananas, milk, also pork, but you want to limit the pork. Biotin in eggs, sardines, almonds, peanuts, pecans, walnuts, soy, beans, black-eyed peas, whole grains, cauliflower, bananas, and mushroom. Folate in broccoli, the leafy greens I mentioned earlier, Brussels sprouts, also in peas, chickpeas, and kidney beans. And then B12 I mentioned earlier, only in animal foods. Now, a deficiency of vitamin D is linked with mood changes such as overwhelming feelings of sadness and hopelessness, also fatigue, forgetfulness, a loss of interest in activities that previously sparked excitement, suicidal thoughts, anxiety, loss of appetite, excessive weight loss or gain, and trouble sleeping. So, you might have just heard of vitamin D for healthy bones, but vitamin D may help to prevent all these other things. So we want to ask our doctor to test us for our levels of vitamin D, the sources, sensible exposure to the sun. Ask your doctor, your dermatologist about this because they may have recommendations. It may be as little as 5 minutes twice a week. They may recommend more or even less than that. And then again, ask your doctor to get tested because where we live in the Northeast, many of us may be deficient. The last thing that I want to end with is what to limit. If we want great mental health and resilience, we want to limit alcohol, added sugar, deep fried foods, refined and processed foods, artificial sweeteners, and unnecessary food additives. Now, sugar may be linked with decreased brain volume, particularly in the hippocampus. That's that worm-like structure that's yellow there. And in that hippocampus, that's the area where memories are formed. So we want to decrease your added sugar in the diet, not the sugar in fruit. Fruit is healthy for us. All right. So if nothing else, I want you to think about eating the rainbow. And I'm going to take a look at the questions as we wrap up. And if you have any more questions, feel free to put those into the chat. And oh, I see a lovely comment here about poppy seed dressing. Thank you for sharing that, Tawny. That's a great dressing to get in more seeds. Poppy seeds, super good for us. And then, oh, I love this question, Sharon. What's better, flaxseed or ground flax? They're both good for us, but the ground is what we want, unless you chew the full flaxseed up. But the seeds are so teeny that you may not be able to chew them up. And when we digest them, if we don't chew them up or ground them, they may just pass through our bodies. And that works really well to prevent against constipation, but we're not getting access to the omega-3 fat. When you grind them up in a coffee grinder, or if you buy them already pre-ground, then you get access to the omega-3 fat. However, know that now you're exposing that interior of the seed, and it may go bad quicker. So you want to keep them in a sealed package. I like to seal them. Then I like to put them in another baggie and I keep them in my freezer to get more life out of them. Great question. Another question from Melanie is, can you share the reducing anxiety with food slide again? So I am going to bring that slide back. And there were two on that. So here's the first one, if you want to get a photo of that. Remember, balanced diet, staying hydrated, more magnesium-rich food, decreasing the sugar, getting regular meals and snacks. And remember, my big takeaway too is meditation. Meditation, fitness, and nutrition they really go hand in hand. It's a three-pronged approach to your mental health and wellness. And then here's the second slide on reducing anxiety, more probiotic foods, asparagus, which is in season now in the spring, the B vitamins, we just went over those. Avocados and almonds are just a quick example. And then antioxidant rich foods. So fruit, berries, nuts, pecans are one of the nuts highest in antioxidants, veggies, spices like the turmeric and ginger. All right, let me check to see if we have any more questions? And I don't see any more questions in the chat. So I want to thank you all so much on behalf of Point 32 Health and Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare. Thank you so much for being here today. I wish you the best mental health ahead. And remember, nutrition, physical activity, and meditation can get us there. So I'm just going to bring us back to the rainbow because that is one simple way to boost our nutrition is to eat the rainbow. And here it is. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. And a special thank you to my co-pilot, Tara. Thank you so much for being behind the scenes and helping this go smoothly. Have a great day, everyone.